Hello, my name is Peter. I'm product owner at DecisionRules, and today I would like to walk you through the demo of our product. Here's a short agenda. First, I will give you an introduction into DecisionRules and explain its benefits. Next, I will show you a real-world use of our tool in a loan calculator. Then, I'll talk you through the entire tool and show you how to create rules and how to combine them into complex decisioning flows. Finally, I will give you a little bit of inspiration by showing you both industry-specific and universal use cases. So, let's start with a short product introduction. DecisionRules, by its definition, is a business rules management system, a BRMS. In other words, an application in which, thanks to its user-friendly user interface, you can create, deploy, execute, and manage your business rules, based on which you can then automate your processes. DecisionRules can easily integrate with your current systems using the REST API. The process is following: your web applications, ERP, CRM, database, or any other system will send the data in using the REST API, make an API request, and DecisionRules, based on the rules and conditions that you have predefined, will make the decision and send the data back as an API response. What is needed to say that all the data are exchanged in a JSON form. Now, let's speak shortly about the key benefits that DecisionRules can bring your organization. Companies nowadays frequently use hard-coded rules, simply a script in which is the decisioning logic based. Such systems have their severe limitations and problems. They are code-based, meaning that if you want to edit the business rules, it has to be done by the developers. And the entire edit or change process takes a real long time, since initially the business team needs to create a business description, which is then implemented by the development team. The deployment of new versions usually happens in predefined intervals, once a quarter or twice a year, meaning if you want to quickly apply new rules, new policies, you have to wait for quite a long time. Another challenge is the testing. Anytime you make a change in the hard-coded rules, you have to run extensive tests, which again have to be done by the developer. To maintain, edit, and deploy new versions of such business-critical piece of software, which the hard-coded rules definitely are, you naturally need an entire team of developers. To sum it up, using hard-coded rules results in a slow time to market and prevents the organization from being agile and nimble. In comparison, DecisionRules are no-code and low-code solution. They do not require any coding knowledge for working with a tool, and they are really easy to learn and use with their visual editor, and they are designed directly for the business users who have the knowledge of what rules they want to create. The deployment is a matter of saving the edits and changing the stage of the rule from pending to published, something that can be done by the business user in a matter of minutes. More importantly, it can be done anytime. Therefore, you no longer have to wait for the next release to change a certain value or apply a new policy. This brings great agility into the entire organization. The rules can be easily tested by the business user, and the entire tool can be managed only by the business team. Now, let's talk about the business intelligence for the moment. DecisionRules can be connected with your favorite BI tools using the dedicated Business Intelligence API. You can easily set up your real-time reporting to visualize your decisions and later run complex analysis. DecisionRules have several deployment options: public cloud, private managed cloud, and private cloud or on-premise. First is the public cloud. which we are offering as software as a service. It is used by more than 12,000 clients all around the globe. The setup does not take more than 2 minutes. All you need to do is to create an account, select a subscription, and you can immediately start creating rules. You can use it anywhere on the planet, and thanks to our global infrastructure with numerous servers all around the globe, you and your clients will have always a good performance with low latency. Our clients are typically using the public cloud as a kind of a testing phase. Once they know the tool more, they smoothly transition towards either a private managed cloud, private cloud, or on-premise. The regional cloud has all the benefits of the public cloud, and on top of it, we do guarantee the data residency, meaning that the data will not leave the selected regions, European Union, United States, and Australia. The second is private managed cloud, which is managed software as a service, meaning that it's a single tenant cloud instance dedicated just for you, and it's managed by our certified professionals. Great benefit is that you don't have to worry about maintaining your own cloud infrastructure. You just select a cloud provider that you do prefer, and it can be Amazon, Microsoft, or Google, locations in which you would like to have your servers, and let us know your performance requirements. And we build everything custom for you. The last type of deployment is private cloud or on-premise. DecisionRules can be deployed directly on your own infrastructure, either in your private cloud or on your own servers. This has great benefits. Not a single piece of data will leave your servers, and everything falls directly under your own security, and you have an absolute control over the solution. Here is a small overview of how the DecisionRules infrastructure looks like. That was everything for now regarding the short DecisionRules intro. And now I think that it would be great to show you DecisionRules and its benefits on a real-world example, specifically from banking and financial industry. For such purpose, I will use our sample loan calculator, which based on your inputs, how much you want to borrow and for how long, calculates your monthly payment and also generates a repayment calendar. In a standard bank, such a loan calculator would be powered by hard-coded rules. So let's say if a banking policy would change and the product team would need to change the rules or the rates, they would need to create a business description and hand over the task to the development team that would actually change the rule or the rates. With DecisionRules, the product team, when banking policy does change, can simply change the rules or the rates by themselves, test it, and also deploy it. In DecisionRules, you can design the repayment calendar, even including the APR calculation. Your business team can easily change the terms, amounts, or interest rate within seconds if needed, and it will be instantly reflected on your website. The monthly payments and the repayment calendar are always immediately recalculated, reflecting the sliders in the DecisionRules. So let's assume that I'm product owner in the bank and I need to change the interest rate from 20% on the amount above $75,000 to 10%. I will open DecisionRules, find a specific rule which is responsible for the interest rate calculation, change the value from 20.24 to 10.24%, fill out the test values, for example 90,000 and 12 months, hit run, examine the results, make sure that the rule is working according to my expectations, hit save, and now if I go back in the loan application, refresh the website, select an amount that is above $75,000, it will use the new interest rate 10.24 that I've just implemented. Please think about this as an example of how easily a particular rule can be changed, tested and deployed with DecisionRules. This was really one of many use cases where you can utilize our rule engine, and I will talk about the others later in the product demo. And now, let's go into DecisionRules. Right now, we are at the home page of DecisionRules. To create an account, you simply click on a sign up button. You can either create an account using your email address and password, or you can use the single sign-on option. Here we are within the application itself, and I will quickly walk you through its most important parts. Right now, you see the dashboard, which is showing you essential information about your usage. How many rules you have created and how many API calls you've made in a selected time period. DecisionRules gives you several ways of how you can create rules. Decision table, decision tree, scripting rule, and the rule flow. Each rule type has its benefits, and I will show you all of them. First rule that I would like to present to you is our most popular one, decision table. There are several reasons for its popularity. First, it is a market standard of decisioning, and it also reminiscents a lot an Excel sheet, which makes it easily operated by the business users. Before we dive deeper into the rule, I would like to give you a quick heads up that the decision table I'm going to present to you represents a use case that calculates a price of a flight ticket and the baggage. Each rule in DecisionRules is combined from two parts, rule settings and rule designer. The rule designer is a place where you design your business logic, the conditions that you will be using for your decisioning. And the rule settings, in which the most important part is the input and output model. It's a place where you set up the structure of the data that I will be sending in and then receiving back. In our case, when we are calculating the price of the flight ticket, the input informations are type of a flight, its duration, distance, and information about the luggage. And the output is the calculation of a ticket price plus the additional charges for the luggage. The setup is really easy. All you need to do is to click on the Add Route button, and then if you want to create a nested route, just click on the plus sign. Another way of how you can set up the input and output model is to use the JSON editor. Meaning, if you already have a JSON that you know you will be sending in on the input, you can just copy the JSON and paste it into the editor, which will automatically map its structure. Of course, you can do the exactly same thing on the output side. Since we have set it up, the input and output structure, we can go ahead towards the rule designer to create the conditions and their results. At this point, I would like to give you a brief overview of how the decision table works. Each decision table is split into two parts, the condition part and then the result part, each containing either condition or result columns that are tied with the input and output variables. And the row represents a certain combination of conditions and their results. We can call it a scenario, meaning if your input will match the conditions in a particular row, you will receive the corresponding results. And here you see in decision table the condition columns and the result columns, which are always tied with either input or output variables. New conditions or results can be added by creating new columns. All you have to do is to click on a plus sign, select on which input variable you want to apply the condition, and then select the operator or function that you want to use. The first page displays basic operators like equal, in, greater than, less than, or between that are really easy to use yet powerful. Second page shows operators dedicated to work with dates. The last one presents functions, logical functions that you know from Excel, and or between, math functions like average, count, maximum or minimum, then text functions such as match, replace or split, and more advanced functions dedicated to work with dates, for example, now or date difference. You can also work directly with arrays. Use functions like array map or array filter. Last set of functions that I would like to talk about are the integration functions. Those gives you an ability to call an external service, its API, and use the acquired data directly in the decision. Last function that I would like to mention is the solve function, which gives you the ability to call another rule, meaning that you can make far more complex rules by nesting rules in each other. Now, let's move towards the result part of the rule. The result of the decision can be either a fixed value, number, or text, like this 50 for example, or a dynamic one, like I have here. As you can see, here you can write functions and nest them in each other just like in Excel. Also, the editor helps you, for example, showing you the correct syntax of the function. If you want to use the input variable for the calculation of the result, you can do that simply by typing the curly bracket, and the list of all input variables that you can use will appear. Another interesting feature that I would like to show you is the activation slider, thanks to which you can either activate or inactivate a particular row. And what is also possible is to set a time validation for the bespoke row, meaning that the row will be active only in a certain time period. You can use it, for example, for the rules tied with a specific time in a year, like a Black Friday or a New Year. During the rule building, you typically want to be sure that you have built the rules correctly. For such purpose, you can use unit tests embedded directly in the application. Select the test bench and fill out the values with which you want to test your rules. Hit run and examine the results. Or, if I would have the test data in a JSON form, I can just paste them here. You can also switch on the debug mode, which will highlight the rows giving you your output and also the conditions that you do comply with and those with which you don't. You might notice that when I filled out the test bench, I have received 3 results and it used the standard way of solving. Another way of solving is an array, which works exactly like standard, giving you as many results as you have matching rows, but it returns the output in array. Then there is a first match way of solving. As you see here, all the rows are numbered, and the first match solving method works in the following way. It goes from top to bottom, and as soon as it finds a matching row, it returns the output and stops. The last way of solving is evaluate all, which will return all the results for all of your rows, showing you either true or false, depending whether you've matched the conditions or not. Don't worry if you'll make any accidental changes during the rule building. You can always go back in time through the history of your edits where you do see who did the change and in what time. In other words, a perfect audit tracking. All it takes to select the particular version is just a click. During my short presentation, you might notice certain similarities between the decision table and an Excel sheet that you know very well. It does not end with just similarities. You can actually set valid values for each condition column just like in Excel. Right now, I have here 3 valid values and I can simply add the 4th one, touristic. Then the person working with a rule after me will have to choose from one of the options in the drop-down menu, which makes it quite handy if you want to limit the condition options. That was for now everything regarding the decision table designer, a place where you do set up the conditions and their results. And now let's briefly tackle the rule settings. The first thing that I would like to talk about within the rule settings is the easy versioning of every rule. You can simply create a new version of the rule just like this and then work with each version individually. Once you create a new version, you are immediately working with it. You see that the rule version changed from 1 to 2, displaying that I'm working with a second version of the rule. By default, a new version state is pending, meaning that you can work with it, edit the input and output model, add new conditions or results, test it with the test bench, but you can't call it from an external system. If you would like to call it from an external system, you need to put it in a published state. This is a really handy feature on every rule. Once you're editing or testing the rule, it is good to have it in a pending stage. And then, when your rule is ready, you can simply change its state and it can be immediately used by your systems. Another feature that I would like to talk about are the notes. Here is a place where you can leave notes for you or your colleagues about the rule, what decision it makes, or to which process is it connected. If you want to organize your rules in a slightly better way, you can use the tag feature to create a system of tags for better visibility. You can also create your custom rule variables with their own values, which can be used across all of your conditions, but edited from here. Meaning that if you are using this custom variable and its value suddenly changes, you can apply the change only here and it will be mirrored across all of your conditions. Last function within the rule settings that I would like to show you are the audit logs. Thanks to the audit logs, you can store, display and analyze all your decisions. Audit logs store information that you have sent in as an input based on what rules you have decided and also what was your decision, opening you great possibilities within the operational monitoring and reporting. Then, if you want to export your rules, you can do that and export into either JSON format, which is universal for all rule types in DecisionRules, or into CSV or Excel, which is unique to decision table. The use case with exporting the decision table into Excel is following. Imagine that you are creating an insurance policy or rule that is based on predefined ranges. You typically already have these ranges or policies written in some tables. All you have to do is to create a structure, the input-output model, set up the conditions and results, export the decision table, populate it with data in Excel, and then import it back into DecisionRules. Really, a last topic that remains to be covered is how you can actually call the rule, either for testing with application like Postman or to connect with your systems. To get the structure of the API call that you have to make, you just click on a request preview, then you copy it into your clipboard, paste it, and you are ready to call this rule from any system supporting REST API. To sum up decision tables, they are really easy yet really scalable way of how you can create rules. Decision table can easily incorporate more than 10,000 rows full of conditions. Thanks to their structure, they are really similar to Excel, therefore really easy to understand by the business users. Now, let me tell you a bit more about decision trees. The use case on which I will be showing you the functionalities is a calculation of the package delivery price and the delivery time based on the distance that a package is going to travel. I'm sure that you know what is decision tree and how it works, that it is a really visual model of a certain decisioning process. For example, here, you see that if the distance will be lower or equal to 100, then the price of delivery will be the distance that the package has to travel multiplied by 0.456. In a second case, if the distance will be between 101 and 300, then the price is the distance multiplied by 0.156. In DecisionRules, the decision trees works exactly like that, with a small difference that it puts the branches that you know from typical decision trees into blocks, meaning that it works based on if this, then that structure. So if the package delivery distance will be below 100, the delivery price will be the distance multiplied by 0.456. So let's go into the rule. You see that the only difference between the previous decision table and the decision tree is the tree designer working on if this, then that logic. The condition blocks can be either if or else. Inside each block, you can select whether you want to use or the AND logic, or you can directly choose variable on which you want to apply the condition. I will quickly apply the condition on the package delivery distance to put it in the same form like you saw in the presentation. After you select the variable, you choose the operator or function in the same manner like before in decision table. In the second part of the block, you can again create additional conditions or choose then, which is the result part of the block, similar to the result column in the decision table, where you choose on which output variable will be the result applied and if it will be a fixed value or the dynamic one. Now I have two blocks. One covering the case that the delivery distance will be below 100 kilometers, and a second one covering the distance between 101 and 300. I can also test the rules in the same way like I did in the decision table. To briefly recap decision trees, they are really visual rule type that is easy to learn and use. Decision tree is typically better suited for simpler rules based on if logic. The third type of the rule that you can create in decision rules is a scripting rule. As the name suggests, the scripting rule gives you an ability to create rules using JavaScript. For example, this one calculates a random number from 1 to 100. Again, the designer is unique to the rule. This time it's Monaco editor, but the rule setting still remains the same. Don't worry, Decision Rules is primarily meant for the business users, and we are not expecting knowledge of JavaScript from our typical user. But from time to time, you just need advanced data manipulation, iteration, aggregation, or to create your own custom function. This type of flexibility can be achieved only thanks to code, and we want to have this option for you directly in the tool. The use case is following: that a general script is created and then the parameterization is done using either decision table or decision tree, which can be easily changed by the business user. Meaning that you are using the flexibility of the scripting rule, but through the friendly user interface of the decision table or decision tree. The last rule type is a rule flow. That is giving you the ability to connect all the rules that I have previously spoken about into complex decisioning flows. Again, the only difference from the previous rules is the rule designer. I've already predefined the input and output structure, and we will be again calculating the price of a package delivery, its duration, and by using multiple rules in one rule flow, I will also select the delivery provider. Now, let's go through the rule designer in a bit more detail. I will start by adding the input and output into the flow, and between them I will put the rules that I want to use in my rule flow. For this rule flow, I will use the rules called delivery provider and package. I will click on the first box and select which rule it should represent, and it will be the package one. As you see here, I can also use a particular version of the rule, but by default it uses the latest one. If I would need to, I can have multiple same rules in one rule flow, just with different versions. Then I select the second rule that I want to use. It will be the delivery provider. Now I will connect the rules with the input and output to create the flow. The only remaining thing is the mapping. In other words, from which source each rule will take the input data. First rule, the package, can take the data only from the input. Therefore, as a data source, I will select the input and choose the input variable, which in my case is a package distance. The second rule, and all the rules that I would connect after the first one, can take the data from either the input or any previous rule in the line. This function opens a great possibilities. You can enrich your data throughout the entire decisioning process, or make even more complex decisions by using particular calculations or decisions from previous rules. So, as a source of input data to the delivery provider, I will not use the input, but I will use the previous rule called package. Lastly, I will finish the mapping of the output of the rule. Now I can go ahead and test the rule I've just built, input the distance that the package is going to travel, hit run, and examine the results. If I will turn on the debug mode in the rule flow, I can see all partial decisions that were made in particular rules. I see that the first rule, based on the input of 200 kilometers, calculated the price of $31.2 and estimated the delivery time to 60 hours. Then, the second rule, based on the $31.2 delivery price, selected the delivery provider, which in this case will be the LPP delivery. Anytime during the rule flow building, you can view the rule that you are using by just clicking on the rule detail. Right now, you see a really similar rule that we have built when I was showing you the decision tree. And here's the second rule used in rule flow, which based on the price of delivery assigns the delivery provider. To give you a brief summary on the rule flow, it's a visual way of how you can connect several rules into more complex decisioning flow. A place where you can use partial decisions from individual rules and combine them to make a final decision. Now let's talk a bit about the rule organization. You can see here that I can organize my rules into folders same way like you are used to on your PC or Mac. Thanks to the folders, you always know which rule is connected with which business process, company, department, or project. To keep everything well organized, you can also create rules directly in the selected folders. You might be wondering, okay, great, now I know how to organize my rules. But what if I would like to manage the access to certain rules, maybe to create separated teams or departments, each with their own rules? For this purpose, we have created spaces. Think about them like separated workspaces. You have to be invited in order to have an access into the selected space and the rules that it contains. You can use spaces to differentiate between individual departments, teams, or projects. What is also possible is to share the rule between the spaces. Simply select Business Rules, click on 3 dots on the rule that you want to share. Now you can clone, share, or move your rule to the space of your choice. Lastly, I would like to show you a section dedicated to users and roles. During the process of the invitation, a role has to be assigned to a selected user, and you can pick from 3 predefined options: admin, editor, and a reader. Plus, you can create as many custom roles with custom permissions as you need. Each of these custom roles has more than 80 permission settings to fit the needs of your organization. Here's a structure of how rules of your organization can look like in DecisionRules. Separated teams, each with rules organized based on a particular business process using folders. Now you know the tool a bit more, so let's discuss the use cases of DecisionRules. Decision Rules, by its very nature, is a really flexible tool that can be used across multiple industries, roles, and use cases. The main idea is to give the business people a way how they can directly create, update, and analyze their rules. To be more specific, I will share with you the use cases of our clients. Please use them as an inspiration, but don't be limited by them. First, I will talk about the industries in which decision rules are currently being used, and later I will also tackle individual roles that can work with decision rules. In terms of industries, decision rules are used in banking and finance, insurance, healthcare, e-commerce, telecommunications, and logistics. Within the finance and banking, the most common use cases are within loan approval process, automation of the underwriting, creation of scorecards, detection of fraud, or automation of the loan origination process. In the insurance, the most popular use cases are calculation of the limits, validation of policies, contract and claim validations, and then eligibility checks of the clients and their risk evaluation. Those two are actually also really popular in the finance industry. In healthcare, our most frequent use cases are usually regarding treatment recommendations. Typical use case in e-commerce is a price and discount calculation, EN code validation, or product categorization. Popular use cases in telecommunications are custom offerings and individual pricing. For example, if a customer already purchased one of the services offered by the vendor, remaining services are offered at a special price. Finally, the most frequent use cases in logistics are selection of product packagings or selection of delivery method and delivery provider. These were slightly more industry-specific use cases. The most ways of how we can utilize decision rules are universal, and I have mentioned some of them here: the dynamic pricing, creation of dynamic forms, scoring of the customers and their segmentation, calculation of commissions for your sales teams, validation of invoices, selection of products so the right client gets a right product, and tailored offerings for customers. Now, let's focus on the roles that can utilize decision rules. As I mentioned earlier, Decision Rules is a really versatile tool that could fit to almost anyone, but primarily we are focusing on the business and non-technical users to give them a way of how they can easily create, edit, and manage their rules.